Dynasty Boardroom. As always, I am your host and fantasy CEO Tycoon, and we are in the home stretch, baby. We've got one more week until the playoffs, and my God, it is a tense time. It's been such a wild year in fantasy between injuries and unexpected players popping and unexpected players dropping, and it's been anything but normal. I mean, obviously, injuries and unexpected, performances happen every single year. But this year, it just feels as extreme as ever. And it's played itself that way all the way up until this week when we have Christian McCaffrey going back on IR. So everybody that held Jordan Mason was excited for about 10 minutes and then got the news that Jordan Mason himself was going on IR. So now we have the Isaac Guerrero show in San Francisco for the rest of the year, for instance. It's just very unpredictable, can be a little frustrating at times, can be unexpectedly good at times. On that same vein, my home Dynasty League, for instance, I lost Taysom Hill for the season. I'm desperately thin at that position in that league, the one tough spot. So losing him stinks, but with this Buymageddon upcoming, I also have Guerrero on that team, so he's going to kind of fill a different void. So it's just been one of those years. But what we are here to do is, if you're in a do-or-die situation, those are the folks I'm looking to help the most right now make some proper decisions going into this final week, whether you need to win to clinch a bye or just to get into the playoffs. And then also just some general thoughts that you can carry with you throughout playoff season. So we'll do it in the format of kind of reviewing last week's games and looking ahead to the players in those teams next week and rest of season. So as we start here, we'll start with the breakfast on Thanksgiving, which was Bears-Lions. With the Lions, really no news, no big takeaways with that team coming out of that game. Just keep an eye on David Montgomery's health. That's what we care about the most. Otherwise, go ahead and continue to start all of your Lions with full confidence every week. Excuse me. And with the Bears, I mean, obviously they're inventing new ways to lose, so that was horrific from a real football standpoint. But as far as fantasy goes, I mean, Keenan Allen's been producing like crazy. Rome Odunze, you can kind of forget about him for the moment. But yeah, Caleb Williams has worked his way back into starting consideration, even in single QB. I probably still would be hesitant. But Swift, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen, you gotta fire those guys up. They've got their coaching change. Eberflus finally gone, so they get that little new coach bump. They've got the struggling, to say the least, San Francisco 49ers up next. Vulnerable team that they should be able to take advantage of, frankly. So I like that matchup for them next week. The Niners have not been very good defensively. And they could still potentially do just enough offensively that the Bears just need to keep it going. And if they don't, they just run the ball. It's going to be a nice day for one DeAndre Swift. But I expect Caleb Williams to be able to do his thing against the 49ers. And the Lions, well, they kick off Thursday night this week against Green Bay. They are at home. So again, no concerns with any of them. Just keep an eye on David Montgomery. The Cowboys and Giants was the next game. So the Giants, frankly, apart from Tracy and Neighbors, forget about it. I mean, in this upcoming week, with them playing New Orleans at home, they'll have an opportunity to do a little something potentially. But I mean, whether it's Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito, it's not going to be very good in all likelihood. So even guys like Wandale or Theo Johnson, well, Theo Johnson I'd consider in tight end premium leagues, but for your standard leagues, don't worry about him. And overall, don't worry much about the Giants. Start Tracy because you needed a running back and potentially Neighbors, but doesn't throw me. And on the Cowboys side of things, though, unfortunately, CeeDee Lamb picked up an injury in that game, didn't play much of the match. But the big takeaway here for the Cowboys is play Rico Dowdle They are just going to continue to give him the ball, I think. They've got a Monday night matchup against the Bengals at home. The Bengals also just, offensively fine, but that defense is horrific. So I think at home, even though the Cowboys have been worse at home, they should be able to get a little something going and expect Dowdle to be fine. And if Ferguson's back, you can probably feel good about him, or Schoonmaker if Ferguson is not back. We'll go back to the Packers real quick since we already discussed briefly Detroit facing them. And on the Packers side, man, Jordan Love is like better Jameis Winston. When I see the meme, it was Will Levis evolving into Jameis, evolving into Jordan Love. So that's, I don't know. I thought that was kind of accurate, actually. He's kind of a frustrating watch, very talented quarterback, but Josh Jacobs is dominating the show. Detroit's run defense actually has been good, but I would not even consider benching Jacobs. And I really kind of see this on the fast track being a bit of a high-scoring game. The Detroit defense is losing players left and right every week. I think it's Malcolm Rodriguez. They most recently lost this past week. I think Anzalone got hurt previously. So it's going to be just fine for the Packers. Start Tucker Kraft at your tight end position. Start Josh Jacobs. Start Jordan Love. And the receivers, it's kind of a mystery every week. I typically tend to take my chances with Jaden Reed. But whether you want to go Dubs, Watson, take your pick. It's kind of a guessing game with those guys. And the Dolphins, they've got the Jets, who, since Robert Saleh got fired, that defense has been among the worst in the league. So we can go ahead and just not worry about them. Tua looks like he's slinging. Tyreek scored, had a good game. Waddle had a big game the week before and then had 4 for 53 this past week. Devon Achane, you're just going to play every time, so don't worry about that. And don't be scared of the Jets, especially with this being in Miami. No cold weather to be a factor. As far as the rest of the way, I actually oddly feel good about the Dolphins' skill players. So going into the playoffs, if you have Achane, you're probably still in good shape. But even if Tyreek didn't tank your season enough with the high pick and giving you little production, but also not because he was hurt, just performing poorly, so you still kind of had to start him every week because he's, Tyreek Hill. It should start to pay off at this point. That's the good news. Before we get into the next teams, let's go ahead and hit the chat real quick with our boy Tyler. What's up, Tyler? Good to see you in the chat in the main show last night. Otten, Johnson, or Firemuth. I assume that is Juwan Johnson and not Theo Johnson, since Taysom Hill is out. Or Kraft, but then I would have Kraft, Reed, A.J. Brown, and Hurts. Yeah, if you're already going Reed and you already have the Hurts Brown stack, I wouldn't want to put my eggs too much in just 2 teams basket. So I'm definitely going Otten. They've got Vegas at home upcoming. All for that. So Otten for sure. I know it wasn't his best game this past week, but for the most part, since Godwin has been gone, Otten has been eating. What up, Rasta? Always happy to have the Get Right CEO in the house. Hey, I might be the fantasy CEO, but he's the boss man. This is Get Right CEO. We love him. We're happy he's here with us. Thank you, sir. Always appreciate it. All right, so let's jump back into it. Raiders and Chiefs was the Black Friday matchup. Shockingly decent game. The Raiders pulling the Bears to lose that game there at the end. They had it won. I don't even know why they were running a play. Maybe they, 15 seconds kicking it, be down to, 12, 11 seconds. They couldn't get the visions of Josh Allen in 13 seconds out of their head. But don't try and waste a few extra seconds. Just kick the damn ball. That's a brutal one. The Chiefs, the running back situation is untrustworthy. I'd say going into next week, maybe we'll get some clarity if Pacheco starts to pick up a little bit more volume as he gets more back to full health. But for now, between Hunt and Pacheco, I don't know. I think there's going to be an interesting split. So I would kind of try to avoid that. If you're desperate at tight end, you're dealing with a bye or an injury, and there's nobody really available. Noah Gray is not a horrible pickup. I'm still comfortable starting Kelsey though, where I have him. And Mahomes, look, man, he's still Patrick Mahomes, and we saw him start to get a bit hot again. And there's just zero chance I'm ever benching Patrick Mahomes for any reason. Sunday night, even against the Chargers coming up. I think this could be a sneaky high-scoring divisional matchup. So I am very excited for this weekend going into the home stretch where they're still trying to fend off the Bills to retain that number one seed. They're still going to have to play, so go ahead and feel good about Mahomes. And I keep Hopkins as a flex play for sure. On the Raiders side, frankly, it's Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers and nobody else. Don't worry about trying to sneak in one of the running backs as a sneaky, a DFS play around it, but in your season long, don't even think about it. Just start Bowers every week and start Myers. He's flex worthy every week as well. At least as long as AOC stays healthy. If Desmond Ridder has to be inserted, then no, forget about that. Avery, would I start Marvin Harrison Jr. or DJ Moore? Honestly, DJ Moore. San Francisco is a mess right now. And typically the number one receivers tend to do damage on us anyways, even when we're good. So I would comfortably start DJ Moore over Marvin Harrison Jr., although I'm not benching Harrison Jr. I know it's been inconsistent. There's been a lot of frustration with him throughout the year, but I do like his matchup against Seattle at home as well. So if you have to choose, though, I'm picking DJM. And yeah, especially in PPR. We know the big majority of the targets in Arizona are going to Trey McBride. So even if Harrison does his damage, it's going to be, if he gets a couple touchdowns on like 5 or 6 catches. I don't think we're going to see any of those like 8 to 10 catch games for Harrison this year. And I could see something like that potentially for Moore. Not likely, but I definitely, see him going higher, in that 7, 8, 9 range, more likely than Harrison, and just as likely to score touchdowns. Chargers and Falcons was actually kind of a fun game. We'll go to the Falcon side. Kirk Cousins, man, this hot cold thing. We saw bad Kirk for sure this week. Bijan Robinson continues to produce absolute A1 stud, so he gets started every week. Kyle Pitts with a donut. That said, I'm attributing that more to the poor game from Pitts because really nobody did much for the Falcons outside of Bijan. So Pitts and London, I still feel just fine about. It looks like they've got Minnesota this week, where I think they'll have to play a little bit of catch up. And Minnesota, they've been winning games, but they're bend don't break, so they're gettable. And I think actually, as far as fantasy points to receivers, they give up quite a few. So don't worry about Pitts or London in this game. I would still go ahead and start them. On the Chargers end, Gus did nothing, although the Falcons are a bit of a pass funnel of an offense, but I'm just avoiding that running back room, not playing Edwards, Haskins, Vidal, nothing moving forward, especially against the Chiefs. Herbert, I am still feeling good about on a week-to-week basis. Will Disley, if you need help, still kind of when you picked him up a couple weeks ago, same thing. So if you're still in kind of a desperate situation, absolutely have to have a TE. Go with Disley. And the receivers, obviously, Ladd McConkey, if he's healthy, is an every week starter at this point. Wide receiver 2 locked in. Quentin Johnston is a desperation ceiling play. So if you're in a situation this week, he's a best ball kind of player. So that's kind of how you have to treat it in the sense this week. If you need floor, avoid Johnston. If you need ceiling, he is definitely playable. And that's where I'd leave it. I wouldn't mess with anybody else there on the Chargers. But yeah, avoid those running backs. Don't fall into potential temptation. Steelers and Bengals. Now that was the surprise, a banger of the week. 44-38 Steelers. Woo! What a game. The Bengals, frankly, they put up 38 on the Steelers defense. So that tells you all you need to know about that offense. Absolutely clicking. Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Brown, all absolutely balling. Even Gesicki in a pinch if you need help with tight end. But I think you have better options like potentially Disley or Noah Gray, even if Gray's not the starter. And on the Steelers side, man, Russell Wilson. Now, still not going to trust him in single QB, but man, if you have him in Superflex, you are in hog heaven. With him at the helm, I am still very happy about George Pickens on a week-to-week basis. Jalen Warren seems like he really is truly the RB2 after a couple years of him kind of mixing it a lot. Notably more. Najee is looking possibly the best in his career, so keep starting Najee Harris with absolute confidence. And I kind of avoid the same, Freiermuth, I guess, is okay at tight end. I still think there are better options out there, so I wouldn't really look to play him. It's really Pickens, Harris, as far as the offense goes. And Bengals, again, nothing to worry about at all. Pittsburgh has Cleveland this upcoming week. Great news for them. That'll be a nice matchup for them to take advantage of. And the Bengals have Dallas, so there shouldn't be too much resistance on their end either. Both these teams looking up for fantasy purposes in Week 14 to get you into the playoffs. Jaguars and Texans was not a great game. Texans were really comfortably in control. Azeez Al-Shaair tried to murder Trevor Lawrence. Then Mac Jones led a comeback, and the Texans just had to hang on there for dear life, which they did. So I'm operating under the assumption that we will not see Trevor Lawrence this week, which means the only Jacksonville player that I'm really keen on is Brian Thomas. Probably still willing to start Evan Ingram, depending on the situation in your position group. I might start ETN. This is the least confident I've ever been in him. If any of you know me, you know how I feel about Travis. So it sucks for me to say that if you can avoid starting him, you should. In a pinch, I think he'll still, get you somewhere in, that 7 to 9 point range and get you something usable, I guess. But I would not be aiming to. But Thomas has that ceiling, even with Jones, that I absolutely want to have in my lineup. And on the Texans side, Stroud is just not startable. Joe Mixon is a top running back in fantasy, so continue to start Mixon, continue to start Nico, wide receiver 1. Don't play Dell. Frankly, Schultz is up and down. Same bucket of guys. If you have him, you're okay with him. You'll be fine, but not somebody I'm excited about. And Houston, actually, I think they're on bye this week, so we don't really have to worry about that for this week. But in the playoffs, I'd really focus on Mixon and on Nico, and they get Schultz in the tight end pinch. Cardinals and Vikings was a great game. Vikings dramatically stealing that one. But they've got Atlanta coming up. So Sam Darnold in single QB, avoid Aaron Jones. Frankly, with his ball security issues, I'm a little concerned about. So I'm trying not to start him if I have better options. Again, you may have no choice based on your team, but if you have two better running backs, I'd aim to do so. Start them instead. Justin Jefferson ultimately got some production late in the game, but you're never benching Jefferson. Addison, happy to start on a weekly basis at this point. And even Hawkinson looks to be back, and he's a guy that if you were able to snag him on waivers a few weeks ago, or if you drafted him when injured, just took him as a late flyer to hold until he got healthy, well, boom, now is the time for that to pay off. And on the Cardinals side, McBride, he's like tight end 2 with no touchdowns. It's frankly incredible. He's nearly matching Brock Bowers' production, in fact, just minus the touchdowns, and just purely dominating. If he gets any positive touchdown regression next year and puts up similar receiving numbers, this guy is going to break the position. It'll be him and Bowers and nobody else. It'll be like the old days when it was just Kelsey, and then for a little while, kind of Andrews, and then nobody else. So maybe we see that return to tight end glory amongst the top of the group anyways, the cream of the crop. But maybe that's just wishful thinking. Marvin Harrison, though, is a bit of a boom-bust type of guy. Boomed a bit against the Vikings, and still a guy that I think part of it is just chemistry issues between him and. Sorry, guys. I feel like I heard my dog getting into trouble here. Hey, what are you doing, buddy? Come here. Um, chemistry issues and just play style issues that him and Kyler haven't really just meshed yet, but the talent between the two, I think, will still play out to some good weeks. It'll be stressful during the playoff weeks, but the talent I'm willing to bet on. And James Conner, go ahead and keep playing him as long as he maintains his health. And Kyler, I'm still starting in single QB, even on a weekly basis. Arizona does have Seattle this week, so that is great news for them, especially at home. I think they'll be able to take advantage of that matchup. Seattle defense is not particularly good. Seattle hasn't been particularly consistent, so this could be very good for them. At least I'm all in. I'm actually probably going to be looking at the Cardinals a bit here in DFS this week because I don't feel like that's going to be as obvious to others. Colts and Patriots was a wild one. On the Colts side, they're on bye this week. Anthony Richardson is still a guy I would not trust in single QB despite the high ceiling, unless you have been playing with waiver guys most of the year, then maybe you don't have a choice. But you're going to need to get into the playoffs without him anyways this week. I really still don't trust any of the receivers, not even Pittman, not Pierce. I'm okay being wrong if one of those guys has a big day, catches one of Richardson's long bombs. That's just not where I'm willing to place my bet. And Jonathan Taylor, fantastic. He's been a little up and down too, but most recent performance in this game was tremendous, and I expect him to continue to play well down the stretch. And the Patriots, Hunter Henry, if he's been off and on the wire, potentially, I know he still is available in some places. He's a guy I definitely want to pick up, definitely a guy I want to be starting. Not as confident in Hooper. He's had the touchdowns, I think, the last couple of weeks, but he's just not getting the same volume as Henry. May trust Henry, so start him with confidence. His other pass catchers, not so much, but Drake May himself was a little intriguing. I think the touchdown upside is still a little limited to be able to consider him in single QB, but a guy to be excited about moving forward, and a guy it's looking like I was wrong on. The kid looks good, and the kid's a dog too. He's fun to watch. He's making me a fan. He said he's like Will Levis, but good, and I like that. And a much better runner. He's very exciting as when he goes mobile. Seahawks and Jets. Well, we'll just start with the Seahawks. We'll start with Geno. Geno, honestly, you can probably still play most weeks just because he has so much damn passing volume he's producing. JSN, not his best week, but still a top guy, and with DK continuously finding himself in the medical tent on Sundays, and frankly, he's been a bit too inconsistent of a fantasy player for my liking. I've never really had much of DK, probably never will. I am most excited about Jackson Smith and Jigba the rest of the way as far as this team goes. And I don't lose faith in K9, Kenneth Walker. He's up and down. I think that's just because of the nature of the Seahawks themselves. But I mean, I can give you a stinker. I can give you a 3-tud game as well. Any week, he is very talented. Arizona on the road is not going to be his best matchup, but I think he can still provide an adequate performance. So JSN and Kenneth Walker, I'm still willing to start with confidence in that game. And on the Jets side, Brees is a little banged up, but I still think he's a guy you can start every week and would start every week. Miami, he'll do fine there. The receivers in this matchup, I'm a little less excited about with Adams and Wilson. Probably lean towards Adams of the two. And frankly, based on talent, most teams you're still going to start, either of those guys if you happen to have them. But I'm probably not incredibly excited about Garrett Wilson this week or as much moving forward. I think post-bye, now we're going to see a lot more of the Adams connection with Rodgers as he likely closes out his Jets career. Because after this, Adams still going to be under contract, so he'll need to stay in New York in all likelihood. But Rodgers likely gone, so this could be the last time they play together, and I think they're going to want to maximize that that little stretch. Titans and Commanders. Titans, Tony Pollard in a lot of weeks I'm interested in, but outside of that, even Nick Westbrook-Ikine, the man with the 40% touchdown catch rate, no, zero interest, will not start him. Especially, this luck is going to run out probably this week, so just enough with Nick Westbrook-Ikine. If you want to go ahead and start him, get us 2 catches for, 20 yards and a touchdown. If those 8 to 10 points are so critical, basically, if he doesn't score, he's going to murder you. So I am avoiding him, and really all Titans not named Tony Pollard. And I don't even like Pollard this week because Jacksonville's rush defense actually isn't too bad. So they're more of a passing funnel. So this actually could be an okay Ridley week. Now, I might probably start Ridley this week, but overall, I'm not thrilled about it. Yeah, that's probably the one guy I would start this week, Calvin Ridley. Otherwise, avoid that mess. And the Commanders, they do have a bye this week, but Jaden, fine. Terry, fine. Ertz, probably good enough to play if you need help at the position. The running back room, though. So Eckler, forget about him for the rest of the fantasy season. The Brian Robinson Jr. injury is still a question. He did play well this week and looked good, but still not sure if he's 100% healthy. So hopefully this bye week helps him get all the way back there. Jeremy McNichols should be a speculative add, though, if he's still available. I would keep him locked in on your bench if you got him. Buccaneers and Panthers, also a surprisingly fun and exciting game. So K-Dot, we'll start with the Buccaneers. K-Dot did have a down game, but again, with Godwin still out and the rest of the non-Mike Evans receivers really still not doing a lot for Baker, I'm going to go ahead and still play Cade every week. No issue. Bucky Irving has really taken over that backfield, it seems, so I'm not playing Rachaad White moving forward. Forget about Sean Tucker anyways. That was never really something to strongly consider. And yeah, Bucky moving forward. Mike Evans back. You're starting him every week that he's healthy, and Baker is starting every week as your quarterback if he's in there. This upcoming week against the Raiders is a primo matchup for all of them to just smash, and I think that they will. So fire up your Bucks with confidence. On the Panthers side, they're starting to look competent of late. Not Chuba's best game, but I still wouldn't worry too much about him. Jonathan Brooks looked decent in his limited usage. Adam Thielen, like we talked about last week, little trusted, reliable target for Bryce Young. He likes to throw to him, and he's going to continue to like to throw to him the rest of the way. So I hope you got Thielen. And if you have him, absolutely starting him. And really the only guys you're going to start are Chuba and Thielen. But still, it's nice to see some life in this Panthers squad. Who do the Panthers have this week? I think they may also be on bye. No, they have Philly. So this week I'm probably not so excited to start them, although I'm probably still starting Thielen. Not probably still starting both Hubbard and Thielen, but just expect minimized output in comparison. Rams and the Saints. The Rams look... Kupp has been wildly disappointing, really. Which you hate to see. But Puka, he's just getting peppered. Stafford obviously loves him. He's a very good player, so go ahead and continue to fire up Puka with confidence. Kyron found himself back in the end zone, although he's not looking great, and I hope you have Corum stashed is all I'm saying. But you're still going to start Kyron for now, and that's really it for the Rams. And on the Saints side, it's Kamara. That's really all you got. Juwan Johnson, I'm interested in this week as a tight end fill-in if you need him. No problem there because I think the Giants are a great matchup. With Taysom out, no problem. I mean, MVS is a desperation play if you need to, again, with Taysom out. But I think this is really just going to be a boost to Kamara more than anything. So if you have Kamara, this is really good news for you. The Taysom injury, that is. Obviously, you don't want anybody to get hurt, but you don't have to worry about him coming in to vulture any of those, inside the 10 plays. They're probably going to lean on Kamara a bit more in those situations. Is Brendan we're trying to get or play both Hunt and Pacheco? Brendan. Who is Brendan? Am I having a brain fart here? Tell me who Brendan is, Tyler. And but I wouldn't want to play both Hunt and Pacheco if I could avoid it. Frankly, I really would try to not do that. Eagles and Ravens was a fantastic game as well. The Ravens, Bateman picked up an injury, but doesn't seem to be serious. He should be back, and I would still start him once they get out of the bye. In week 14, obviously, Lamar is Lamar. Mark Andrews scored again because Mark Andrews is a fucking beast and should never be on your bench. Zay Flowers looking good, and unfortunately, Deontay is truly dead with that team. I know it's just depth, but yeah. So hopefully he's already been dropped. And on the Eagle side, Jalen, Barkley, and A.J. Brown every week. No doubters. That won't change. Especially this is going to be a nice matchup for them against Carolina. And if Devontae Smith returns for this game, I would also play Devontae Smith in this game. Goddard as well. Just the full lot of Eagles. They're looking great. One of the best teams in the league. Right up there with Detroit and Buffalo, I would say. Mason's back up. No, if Guerrero is out there, Guerrero should be the 100% priority. I would start him over Hunt and Pacheco 10 times out of 10 going into this next week. Start the San Francisco starting running back for sure, as long as Kyle Shanahan is the head coach. So Guerrero 100%. Bid whatever you got to do to get him. Nino Pena, what is up, brother? Got a pretty late trade deadline, got offered some right before playoffs. All right, well, let's see. What do we have here? Send Depot and B-Rob, Brian Robinson, and Tillman for London, Josh Downs, and Tua. Do you need... let's see. Hold on. Current running backs are Chase Brown, James Cook, Bucky, Brian Robinson, Tracy Jr., so you can afford to lose Brian Robinson. And you'd be trading Debo for London, which I'm in favor of. And Tillman, he's injured, so I might do this. Do you really need Tua? I mean, can you get a different running back or possibly a tight end or something besides Tua? Do you need the QB? Would basically be my main question here. Tua to a different player if you don't need help. But if you need a QB, well, that's not bad either. I would probably do this because I'm really down on Debo right now, and honestly, for the rest of the year. It doesn't look right. The vibes around the 49ers are all off. Frankly, outside of Purdy, Kittle, and whoever's starting running back, in this case Guerrero, for the next few weeks, I'm, Jennings maybe, but as just a flex, so yeah. I got Kyler currently, so you think at any point Tua will start? You know what? That is an interesting exercise. Let's do something real quick. Let's take a quick look at their playoff schedules because I don't have them memorized off the top of my head. But because if you could play the matchups with them, then it could actually be interesting to have them. So weeks 15, 16, and 17, Kyler has a very favorable slate through the playoffs. The Patriots, the Panthers, and then the Rams in week 17. And Tua, Houston, San Francisco, and Cleveland. I mean, it's possible. Maybe it's just not bad insurance, potentially. So, go ahead and leave Tua in there. I would do that, though. I'm willing to trade B-Rob to upgrade from Debo to London. So that's why I'm good with that part of it. And Downs is nice to throw in there as well. And I'm really not too concerned about losing Tillman. So you get Towns replacing Tillman, a healthy player over a non-healthy player. I would do that. I definitely would. But I hate to say it. I'm a big 49ers fan, but I do not believe in Debo right now. One of my biggest misses of the year was saying he was a steal when you can get him in the fourth round of these drafts. Like him and Kupp, but really let me down. These guys are incredibly talented and reliable players, and that has not been the case this year. And I don't think it's going to be the case for Debo. So get that done. Bring in the higher ceiling player in London. Also, I'm not convinced Brock Purdy is really totally healthy right now. And I'm not even convinced that he makes through the rest of the season himself. And if that happens, it will crater Debo, period. So I think there's a bit more safety in going with London. Because even if something were to happen to Cousins, benched, injured, whatever, I have faith in Penix, at least for a couple games. I think he'll take his shots. So I certainly have more faith in Penix than Brandon friggin' Allen, who should never take another snap for my 49ers again. And speaking of the 49ers, as we get into the last couple of teams, they got absolutely boat raced by the Bills. So I kind of just told you what I think about the 49ers. So going into next week's matchup against Chicago, yeah. Purdy, I'd still play. Kittle, yeah. Gorendo, absolutely. And Jennings, if you need flex help, can probably be played there. But in general, I'm trying to not play them if I can help it. Mainly want to play Gorendo and Kittle. And on the Bills side, Josh Allen, obviously every week. James Cook, obviously every week. Frankly, even when Kincaid comes back, Kincaid sucks. Knox is better, and Knox is not that great as far as being a pass catcher, so just avoid that tight end situation. Shakir is probably the one guy I'm comfortable with. Cooper's really not doing anything. Coleman's hurt. So Cook, Allen, and Shakir are the three that I'm locked in on and kind of not really too worried about the rest of the Bills as far as it goes with them. I want to keep Amari Cooper on my bench and definitely don't want to lose him or drop him or anything like that, because if the chemistry does start to pick up in a week or two and then looks like they're going hot into the final couple of weeks, it'd be nice to have. But otherwise, just stay focused on those big three. Nino appreciates it. Totally agree with the Debo situation. Had huge expectations when CMC was first ruled out earlier in the season. It never happened. No. And it just hasn't happened for the 49ers as a whole. This year is very much like 2020 was for them after losing the Super Bowl in 2019. So the hangover and all the extra injuries like crazy, bad vibes around the team. It's everything about this team. I mean, we had a player lose a 1-year-old and another player just lose her baby. Travarius Ward and Trent Williams, both them and their wives lost, infant children, and and those things affect teams, So it's just everything is all the juju is bad with the Niners. So I'm really, and Debo is kind of one of the faces of that. So, stay away. And the final couple teams we'll take a look at as we go into this final week and this final regular season week. Think about the playoffs is the Browns and the Broncos. That was a fun game and really some wild swings of emotions if you had the Denver defense and David Njoku and Jameis Winston on your teams in particular, because holy smokes, I saw some crazy situations. So on the Brown side, Jameis, baby, just for fantasy purposes, God, he's just going to keep chucking it. So go ahead and fire him up, honestly. Unless you have a league that really penalizes those interceptions more, then maybe avoid that. Jerry Jeudy is apparently one of the best receivers in the league with Jameis throwing to him. What did I see right before I logged on? He was 30th in the league in receiving yards before the game, and after the game is now 5th in the league in receiving yards. Absolutely bonkers. So, Jerry Jeudy is now a weekly starter. David Njoku is a weekly starter for me at tight end. I know he is a little inconsistent, but what tight end isn't? He's a guy that has a ceiling like what we saw last night. So David Njoku every week. And Elijah Moore is a desperation flex play. Great game last night. Wouldn't get used to that. And frankly, I'm avoiding Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford. I really don't want a part of that backfield. Nick Chubb is just not Nick Chubb. And Jerome Ford also is just not that great. So trust in Jameis and his two primary pass catchers, Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku. And on the Broncos side, well, let's see where he is now. Hold on a second. We got Boziv Nix, QB7. So I guess you kind of have to be playing him every week. The Broncos are on bye this week. What is his playoff schedule? That's what I'm not. Indiana, Chargers, and Cincinnati. Okay, so that week 16 against the Chargers at the Chargers is a little bit of a bugaboo, but weeks 15 and 17 are nice. So if you have a replacement option for week 16. You feel good if you have Knicks going in this week. I'm not even a big Bo Nix guy, but the fantasy production is in fact there. I'm starting Sutton weekly with no concerns. The running backs, again, absolute disaster. I'm not starting Williams or McLaughlin or Estime ever, so just forget about that. And frankly, I'm not starting any of the other pass catchers out there in Denver either. It's a complete guessing game as to who might end up with a big player or two with Bailey or Franklin or Lil Jordan Humphrey, or just forget about those guys. Just lock in on Sutton and Knicks, and that is it. And that is it for us tonight. So I got a couple more minutes if there's anybody of the few of you that are watching that have any questions or want to talk about anything. So while I'll give you a couple minutes to get those in, we will take a quick look at the Get Right Fantasy schedule. If I can find the damn graphic. On Mondays, we have the waiver wire ads with Rasta and Frank. On Tuesday, we have yours truly here at the Fantasy Boardroom. Wednesday, Rasta and Frank return with the Buy Low, Sell High Rasta Management edition of the show. Also on Wednesday, we have Phil Ruskin hosting the Extra Point, and he does it again on Thursday. So nice, he does it twice. And on Friday, once again, it's so damn nice we do it twice. We have Kendall of the Fantasy Football Tavern and Classic Mike doing part 1 of the starts and sits, and then Phil and Rasta doing part 2 to close out your Friday evenings. Not listed here because this graphic was made before their show kicked off, but we do have Sweet Life on Saturdays, and on Sunday, Classic Mike gets you ready with this active inactive show and starts at Q&A at 8 a.m. Pacific on Sundays. My friends, let me tell you, we have content for you 7 days a week. Every damn day we have something here for you. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you win championships. It's about time to collect on that. Every single day. I can't stress that enough. Every damn day we're here. And we're all reachable. Our socials are listed in the description here. You can reach out to any of us at any time. And most of us, it's the same username on Sleeper. So you can find us. We are available. We are here to help. We're here to win for us, but we're here to help you win as well. So yeah, unless you're playing against us, don't ask questions about those leagues. We're around and we want to help you win. So it looks like we don't have any questions for now. Rasta, don't worry about it. Graphic needs to be updated. You don't even have the showtime correct. Well, it needs to be updated because we do need to add Cody and the boys there for Sweet Life. But the showtime, see, it'll never be correct for me because I don't start at the same time every week. That's the problem. I wanted it to be 6 every week or 7 every week, but life in this time of year doesn't really allow that for me, especially when we get to like Thanksgiving in December, between family holiday stuff, but work, this is one of the busiest times of me of the year in my day job. So there's no committing to a consistent time. So don't even trip about the show time being listed there. Okay, we've got no other questions. So I guess save them for tomorrow and the rest of the week with the rest of the crew. Hopefully I'll be able to join them once or twice more before the season ends, but that is where we'll leave it. So once again, man, I have to thank all of you guys from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for spending some time with me. It is the most valuable resource that you have. It is the one thing you cannot buy, the one thing you cannot replace. So as always, I am incredibly grateful and incredibly humbled that you've chosen to spend 45 minutes of that with me tonight. I love you all very much, and I love that you're all going to go ahead and win some fantasy championships. So with that said, man, we are going to get out of here. Good luck this week. Get into the playoffs. Let's get those ships. And this meeting of the Fantasy Boardroom is adjourned.
Wanted to write fantasy is the play. Marking nothing but I tune every Friday. Strategies provided.